Welcome to the Dowden Podcast. I'm your host, the official CRG, and today we are going to talk about the drug and homeless crisis in America and some things I believe we can do to stop the increase in numbers on both sides. But before we get started, you can find this video strictly on YouTube, but the audio everywhere else. Now, the drug and homeless crisis has been a problem in America for decades, but with an increase in fentanyl and the markets like rent, the numbers have skyrocketed, causing cities to give up streets because people take shelter and even causing an increase in overdoses because of fentanyl. And before we go any farther, I'm fully aware everyone makes their own choices, but not everyone is homeless on their own doing, and not everyone is addicted on their own doing. Drugs are a very powerful thing, and one little hit or vape of whatever it is, your whole life could now resolve around this one thing, and that's not everyone's fault. But to carry on, the reason I'm talking about the drug and homeless crisis together is because they actually go hand in hand. You see, most of the time, substance abuse leads to homelessness because, like we said, addiction can control your life and you might be stable. You might have a house. But with that addiction, if you run out of money, you're going to start selling stuff so you can get your fix. So it's just a repeating process. You sell and you sell until you realize that you actually have nothing left and nowhere else to go, or potentially even worse. And what I mean by even worse is, for example, drug overdoses have killed almost 1 million people since 1999. That is only 25 years. That is 1 million people in 25 years. I mean, can you imagine what it's going to be like in 50 to 100 years? That number is going to be insane. Also, fentanyl is a factor in more than half of all overdose deaths. Having less than 2 milligrams cause certain death. And if you don't know what fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, meaning it is not derived from the opium poppy plant. Instead, fentanyl and other synthetic opioids, such as methadone, are made entirely in laboratories. So, with an increase of this one drug, it's now being mixed with other substances without scaling, making them stronger, but also extremely toxic. Now, when it comes to the homeless, that's going to be these dealers' main market because most of them are already addicted. So they take advantage, which then increases more homelessness and more addiction and overdoses. And it becomes just this never ending cycle. For example, 2 years ago, around 582,000 people were homeless across America, having it increase around 6% each year. And that was 2 years ago, so I can only imagine what the numbers are going to be in 10. Also, most research shows that around 1/3 of people who are homeless have problems with alcohol and or drugs, and 2/3 of these people have lifetime histories of drug and alcohol use disorders. So drug and homelessness almost work hand to hand, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it or at least slow down the increase in numbers. For example, when it comes to the drug crisis, the government could be doing a lot more than they actually are. I mean, they could set up stations and give away clean needles and test kits. Or they could make Narcan free instead of making people pay for it. And for people who don't know what Narcan is, it's basically a spray that goes in the nose when someone overdoses, blocking the effects of the drug in your body. So the government should be making them free and sell them at any store because it can save your life. But instead we have to pay for it. Also, when it comes to doing drug programs, there's a major lack in funding, so people are just going to these half-ass programs where these workers don't care about anyone. And then people just go and relapse because they've been there for 2 weeks on withdrawal for no apparent reason. And it's not like we, the people, can do anything about it because these companies throw people on painkillers and opioids, and they're throwing them on all these medications, which now these people are getting addicted to and losing everything. And now, because we are on these pills or we are on these painkillers and we're addicted, it's not their problem anymore. They got their money, so now we have to deal with the consequences. And when it comes to the street, you can't necessarily be mad at the dealers either because they're just trying to live and survive like everyone else. They have a job. It's just their job deals with addicts. Also, when it comes to the government could help a lot more when it comes to the homeless and their problems. Now, yes, maybe they don't have complete control of markets and the prices, but what they do have control over is how many people are on their streets in each state. Now, for example, they could increase the number of shelters and lessen the restrictions for people who stay, because at most shelters, you can be addicted to alcohol and stay. But if you're addicted to anything or you smoke weed, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to stay. They kick you out, which then forces more people onto the streets. Also, they could have better housing programs where people can live for free, but they have to find a job and work. And once they're stable, then they can go and move on. But the government doesn't want to do that. They don't want to help. They don't want to give out or push out any more state funds that will help the people because they need us for money. Or the government could put facilities in each state where homeless people can go and either apply for local jobs or state jobs and get helped and walk through the process of getting everything they need, like documents and identification. So, the drug and homeless crisis is something we all need to focus on because somewhere down the line, we've all lost somebody to drugs, and it rips families apart every single day. As for the homelessness, that number increases and grows larger every day, having more families on the streets struggling to feed their own children. But with that said, today's quote is by Victor Mitchell. He once said, "The war on drugs has made governments more powerful, citizens less free, and hasn't helped users or addicts." I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to leave a like and follow. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And this is the Dowden Podcast.